The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
I'd like to call the 1:30 special meeting of the local government commission to order. Thank you, commission members, for making yourselves available today for this special meeting. Very important to get these budgets adopted for the local governments that we're managing their finances. I'm going to turn the meeting over to Cindy for a roll call of members as well as a roll call of staff.
Okay, thank you. This is Cindy Aiken. Members, if you'll answer, so we'll test your audio as well as we go down the roster. Secretary Marshall.
Here.
Thank you. Secretary Penny.
Here.
Thank you. Mr. Burns.
Here.
Thank you. Mr. Butler.
Here.
Thank you. Ms. Harvey.
Here.
Thanks. Councilwoman Hoffman.
Here.
Thanks. Mr. Philbeck.
Here.
Thank you. Treasurer Falwell. Muted. Did Auditor Wood join us? No. Treasurer Falwell, are you muted? All right. And then all of the members, that would be two absent at the moment, Falwell and Wood. In Dogwood, staff present are Sharon Edmondson, myself, Susan McCullen, Debbie Tomasco, Victoria Bledsoe. And that takes care of the roll call. And everyone knows the procedures. Please identify yourself when you're speaking and making motions. Thank you.
All right, if everyone would join us in the Pledge of Allegiance, and then we'll have our salute to the North Carolina flag. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America,
To the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I salute the flag of North Carolina and pledge to the old North State love, loyalty, and faith.
Sharon, this is Treasurer Falwell. Thank you for chairing. I'm going to be back with the board in about 11 or 14 minutes, and so thank you for chairing.
You're welcome. All right, Cindy, do you have any other housekeeping items?
I don't think so. Sorry, I jumped the gun.
More efficient. Thank you. I'll read the conflict of interest statement just as a reminder. Please take a moment to review the agenda, and I'll ask if anyone has any actual potential or appearance of a conflict of interest over any of the matters on the agenda. All right, hearing none, we'll move on then to the next item, which is approval of minutes. We have several sets of minutes for approval from the June 13th, 2022 budget hearings for Cliffside Sanitary District, Town of Kingstown, and the Town of Spring Lake, and June 20th, 22 budget hearings for the Town of Pikeville and the Town of Robertsonville. Do I hear a motion to approve those minutes?
Move approvals, John Burns.
Thank you, Mr. Burns.
Second, Nancy Hoffman.
Thank you, Ms. Hoffman. All right, we have a motion and a second. Cindy, if you'll call the roll.
Without objection, we'll follow the same procedure. If you moved and seconded, I will skip you as you are yes. Auditor Wood still absent. Debbie. Okay. Wood absent. Secretary Marshall.
Aye.
Thank you. Secretary Penny.
Aye.
Mr. Butler.
Aye.
Thank you. Ms. Harvey.
Aye.
Mr. Philbeck.
Aye.
Treasurer is temporarily, absent. Thank you. Motion carries.
Thank you, Cindy. Next, I'm going to turn the meeting over to Susan for a couple of action items for the towns of Robertsonville and Kingstown.
Treasurer Falwell votes aye. Cindy, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
these are a couple of resolutions that we need to get taken care of before the end of the fiscal year, which is Thursday. So I'll turn that over to Susan.
Okay, thank you, Sharon. Sharon, do we want to vote on these together? Do we want to take individual votes on these, or just do one vote after I present them both?
Does anyone object to doing this in one vote for both resolutions?
Okay.
All right.
All right.
I'm going to assume that's a yes.
All right. The first resolution I'm going to be talking about is in attachment A in your packet. It's for Robertsonville, a resolution accepting a DEQ loan principal forgiveness and a VUR grant. This item is based on a letter that we received from DEQ in May, offering and accepting ARPA funding for a water systems project. The town had gotten approval through an SRF loan to do this project, and it never came to fruition and was completed and moved to the project status because the town's audits were delayed. And so the project was never kicked off or started. So with ARPA money and the fact that the town is designated as distressed, then the DEQ had decided to switch the use of funds from SRF to ARPA funds. So now what the status is the town has been awarded an SRF loan, but they're not incurring any additional debt because the $389,650 is principal forgiveness. So the town is not incurring any debt. And they're also being awarded $1.7 million in ARPA funds instead of the prior SRF funds. So this is not a new project, just new funding for a project. So SWIA sent us an offer letter on May 26th. The Robertsonville board accepted SWIA's offer on June 14th. And then now we're asking you as the LGC acting on behalf of the town of Robertsonville to accept this grant for water infrastructure so the town can move ahead with this project. So I have that one. Attachment B that was in your packet is for the town of Kingstown. And they needed to appropriate some additional revenue, utility revenues that were collected during the year. These are over and above what they had already budgeted for the year in collections because they had anticipated needing more money to pay recurring utility expenditures through the balance of the year through June 30. So this is just for recurring bills that were a little higher than they had anticipated, and they needed a little bit more to finish out the fiscal year. So those are the only two items that Sharon.
All right, thank you. Any questions or discussion on either one of these items?
Yes, this is Paul Butler. I'd like a separate vote, please, on each attachment.
All right. Any questions then? We'll take attachment B for Kingstown first. Any questions? Attachment A for Robertsonville first. Any questions or discussion on that item? All right, hearing none, I'll ask for a motion in a second to approve that resolution.
So moved, Nancy
So
Hoffman.
moved. Second, Ms. Harvey.
Thank you both. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Cindy, if you please call the roll.
Sure. Okay, the Robertsonville resolution regarding the grants, that was motion Hoffman, second Harvey. Secretary Marshall?
Aye.
Thank you. Secretary Penny?
Aye.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Burns?
Aye.
Thanks. Mr. Butler?
No.
Thank you. Mr. Philbeck?
Aye.
Thank you. And Treasurer Falwell, are you available? Okay. I'll make a note. Absent for the moment. Okay, that motion carries.
Thank you, Cindy. We'll move on then to the budget amendment for the town of Kingstown, attachment B. Do I hear a motion and a second for approval of that item?
Marshall, move approval.
Second, Burns.
Thank you both. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Cindy, if you would please call the roll on the Kingstown budget.
May I ask a question?
Yes, sir.
So both of them, the expense to city of Shelby says increase 7,000 and utility revenue Cleveland County says 7,000. Is one of those, are they supposed to both say increase?
Yes, sir. What they're doing there, I'm sorry, Susan.
No, that's fine. Go ahead.
I was going to say what, they're increasing the amount they expect to pay to Shelby and also increasing the amount they're expected to receive from Cleveland County who collects.
Okay, I get it. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Any call?
Sure. All right, the Kingstown budget amendment for this additional charges. Marshall's motion, Burns second. Auditor Wood absent. Secretary Penny?
Aye.
Thank you. Mr. Butler?
Aye.
Thank you. Ms. Harvey?
Aye. Aye.
Thanks. Thank you. Councilwoman Hoffman?
Aye.
Thank you. Mr. Philbeck?
Aye.
I'll call Treasurer Falwell. Okay. That motion carries. Okay, sure.
All right, moving on then to the last group of items on the agenda are the 2022-2023 budget ordinances for the 5 towns for which we held the budget hearings earlier in the month. So in attachment C, you have each of the final proposed budget ordinances for each town. You have a comparison of tax and water sewer rates from fiscal year 2022 to 2023, and I'll go over that in just a moment. And then you also have some additional information about Spring Lake, where one of the LGC members had some questions, and so we shared that information with all of you in an email, and it's also in this packet. So the second page of attachment C is a comparison, as I said, of the 2022 versus the 2023 tax and water sewer rates for each of these communities. Flip side, you've got a separate page attached there that shows all their various sundry rates. The residential rate increases actually went into effect back in March. And that was discussed at an earlier commission meeting and voted on. And then there were additional industrial and institutional rate increases that went into effect, that will go into effect rather as part of this budget. And all of these customers have been notified, were notified in advance of the increases. Their tax rate in Cliffside remains unchanged. For the town of Kingstown, there are no changes in either the tax rate or the water sewer, or the sewer rates. I should say they don't have water.
In Cliffside, will residential rates go up? Will they have moved twice this year?
No, sir, they were increased in March. And then, and as of July 1st, they're just bringing in the institutional and industrial customers. This is the range.
I have a process question. May I ask?
Certainly.
While we were listening to the budget presentations, we had, and I think it was Pikeville, but I'm not sure, we had a resident speak up and suggest that the town needed to invest in children's recreational programming. And I just have a question, and because as a newer member of this board, I still find the role of this commission as the budgetary, or as stepping into the shoes of the local governing body a little bit odd. I realize that's what we're here for, but are we empowered to make changes like that, or do those types of changes come recommended from the elected board and we just have the final say?
We are empowered to make any change that affects the financial condition of the unit of government. And I honestly don't remember which hearing that.
I don't either, and it was just one individual speaking, so I hesitate to even tackle that. But it strikes me that I don't really know the extent of the power I have to address things like that, and I always hesitate to second guess or disagree with those folks who are elected directly by the people in these towns.
My notes do say Pikesville, and that was one of my questions. Is the Pikesville budget, because there was somebody who came in and spoke and said, we are ready to help Pikesville. And I guess one of the questions I had is, was the budget changed or reduced at any point in terms of recreation?
No, there's been no changes from the previous year. And I don't recall, this is our second year of doing the Pikeville budget. I don't recall reducing any of that in the prior year either.
No, I remember Pikesville wasn't an issue last year.
No.
This is Cindy Aiken. My records show that that two members of the Pikeville board expressed their thanks, but you might be thinking of Robertsonville. There was one.
Robertsonville. It's either Pikesville or Robertsonville.
I believe it was Robertsonville. It was a gentleman who was with the Martin County school system.
That's right.
Okay, so just.
Did their budget change?
No, sir. I think they were just looking for opportunities to help out.
All right. So there's whatever. Well, let me ask this: are the services that existed in Robertsonville still existing in terms of Parks and Rec?
Yes, they are. We've not made any cuts in that area.
Okay.
And
Was Robertsonville the city that we had the library issue with last year?
yes, sir.
Yes,
Yes, sir.
And that's been worked out. That was worked out last year, and I'm assuming that deal is holding.
Yes.
And Secretary Penny, depending on what the 2022 audit looks like for Robertsonville, and what their fund balance is, the town, if they wanted to invest more in additional recreation, could potentially choose to do that, depending on what their revenue sources look like and whether or not they've got those resources to do that as we move into 2023. So the local board could ask you to amend their budget mid-year and do some of that if they choose to do so.
And I'm assuming then that the local board is not putting up any, or we hear them today, objections about this budget.
No, sir, not at all.
Thanks,
And
y'all.
Mr. Burns,
That's helpful.
back to your question, Mr. Burns, my understanding, and Cindy, correct me if I'm wrong, or if you disagree, is the commission has the same authority the local board has with regards to the budget. You can eliminate programs, you can add programs, you can cut, you can raise rates, you can raise taxes. Anything the local elected officials could do with regards to finances that LGC can do once we've exercised our authority. We try to get concurrence with the local board. Obviously, we're not stepping into governments that are in good financial condition, so oftentimes there are difficult decisions to be made. Sometimes decisions the boards are not willing to do themselves.
Understood.
So,
Thank you.
Oh, and Sharon, Kendra Bull is telling me that the budget did include for 2023 some expanded youth services monies.
okay.
The original proposed budget did include some expanded youth services money over 2022's budget. So there had already been some increases to youth recreation when y'all saw the budget, the first one. Okay.
Secretary Penny, I told you incorrectly about Cliffside. There was another small increase for the residential customers at July 1st as well.
So what is that a 10.7% increase?
No, I don't believe so. It went from up to 20,000 gallons of usage a month, which essentially covers, I think, almost all of their residential
Yes.
customers, if not all of them.
All of them, yes.
The rate went from $5.75 per thousand to $6 per thousand.
Which was a 4.35%.
4.35%.
Increase, yes. And they were notified, the customers were notified in their June billing that this increase, they were reminded that this increase was coming in their June bill.
In the June bill or July bill?
Well, it's coming in the July bill, but we sent the notification in the June bill. So they were given a month notice that there was an increase.
And how much in dollars is this for the typical residential?
Down at the very bottom of the page that's labeled Cliffside Sanitary District, for a $5,000 gallon per month bill. Back in February, that would have been $49.58. Come July 1st, it'll be $54.75.
Yeah. Correct. Yeah.
Moving on then to the town of Spring Lake. There is, on its face, there is a change in the tax rate, but there is no change in an effective rate to the citizens of Spring Lake. The town's taxes are going down from 70 cents to 65 cents. And the county is going to tax the town as part of their recreation district, an additional 5 cents on their county taxes. So the net change to the Spring Lake residents is zero. But that was required as part of our efforts to improve their recreation program in Spring Lake at a reduced cost to the town. It's going to save the town about $100,000 a year. Turn over their Parks and Recreation program to the county. So that's what necessitated that. There also was, or is proposed, a water and sewer rate increase. The town gets their water from Public Works Commission of Fayetteville and also from Harnett County. And there was a 14% increase in the water bills. That's a blended rate due to a 16% increase by PWC to the town for its wholesale rate, and also just increase in costs of providing water service. The sewer rate went up 5%. That is in compliance with the recommendation of a recently completed rate study. We did not have any rate changes last year in the water sewer rates for Spring Lake. So we're playing a little bit of catch up on that. Also, again, PWC, which is their main water supplier, raised their rate 16%.
Sharon, PWC raised their rates to the regular citizens 16%.
That was the increase in the wholesale rate to Spring Lake. I do not know what they raised Fayetteville residents by. Do you know?
No,
I believe there was a rate increase to the city of Fayetteville, but I don't know what that is.
Sharon, also, how much is legal going up this year above what it was last year?
there was a note about that somewhere. I don't think we changed legal. It's just there were no actual expenditures in the prior year.
I thought it was around $40,000 last year. And there was a note somewhere that there wasn't going. Have you secured a new attorney yet, or we still have the same attorney?
They interviewed somebody last week.
They did,
And
yes.
they decided to hire.
I have
We don't
not
know.
heard what the results were, but I know that the board has done at least one interview, so they are looking. I don't think they actually changed the amount that they budgeted for legal in 2023. So they budgeted 59,900. I think that's what they budgeted in 2022. So they didn't change what they budgeted for legal in 23, but in 22, that attorney that they had that year did not bill them, only billed them 2,900 for that year, and the rest of the services he provided throughout the year were on a pro bono. He's not going to bill for any other services. So that extra budgeted amount they had in 2022 will just fall to fund balance, which is a good thing for them.
So last year, they only paid the attorney, last fiscal year, they only paid the attorney $2,300, and he did the remainder of the year pro bono or waived his fee. And this
Yes,
year,
sir.
we're going to budget nearly $60,000 for it. And we
Yes,
we haven't hired the guy yet, and we don't know what we're going to pay him.
No, sir. We'll have to look at what that contract is and then figure out if we need to rework the budget before executing the contract with the new attorney once we figure out who we're hiring, what their fees are.
All right, thank you.
All right, moving on to Pikeville and Robertsonville down at the bottom of that summary page. Both of those municipalities, we left the tax rates and the utility rates unchanged.
Sharon, this is Paul Butler again. Can you share with me a little bit more about sale of cemetery lots for $17,000 and grave openings for $14,000?
And which entity?
Pikesville.
They still operate a municipal cemetery in Pikeville. and it's apparently well used. I don't know how I didn't want to say it was popular. They seem to be moving right along with selling their plots, and like I said, they are one of the few municipalities that still has an active municipal cemetery.
Roseboro has a huge one. I mean, there aren't but 300 or 400 people in that town, are there?
But it's Pikeville. It's Pikeville.
About 900,
About 900 maybe,
a little over 900 actually.
and it's starting to grow.
Well, if we're going to bury them, it can't be growing a lot. I just had never seen that before. Maybe y'all have had that before, but particularly grave opening fees. Mr. Burns, you had much dealings with opening graves?
No, at Wake County though, we did a lot of moving graves. That was
Yep,
one
I
of the things.
understand with moving graves, but I've never known about opening graves.
Well, if you're gonna run a cemetery, you gotta open graves.
This is true.
And if it's like most,
Well, I mean, if you want to run a good cemetery.
well, and I might add that more people died in North Carolina last year than were born.
Well, and you know, there are people dying that's never died before.
But yeah, more people died in North Carolina than were born last year. But North Carolina was the 4th or 5th fastest growing state because of in-migration. So I suspect what you have is people who lived in Pikesville die and come back and get buried in Pikesville.
As I said, people are dying that's never died before.
Their websites. We also have a municipal cemetery in Eureka. Is that still?
Pikeville
be
might
seeing
need,
that
we might need to increase Pikeville's tech budget. Their website's not loading.
Okay. All right, any other questions?
Let me just make sure, are any of these cities electric cities? I don't believe so.
Pikeville, Robertsonville,
Pikeville.
Robertsonville and Pikeville are.
Yes.
All right. Now, is any of this budget built upon transferring money from the utilities fund to the general fund?
No, sir.
We have some
I mean,
legitimate cost allocations between the funds, you know, where we're sharing the manager's salary, the finance officer's salary, cost of the annual audit, that kind of thing.
yes.
Yeah, I'm not talking about cost. I'm talking about the transfers that once they, noted their profit, they're able to transfer money from one fund to the other. That's more, we all allocate. There are always people who are split budget.
Robertsonville has a history of doing that. But as does Spring Lake from their water and sewer, but none of them are doing it with their current budgets.
I've never looked at a town budget very, very much. As on, they receive video and telecommunications. The video cable franchise fee.
Secretary Marshall, you're breaking up. We apologize. We couldn't hear your question.
Okay, the video taxes, and what is that on?
It's all of them have it.
Oh,
It's,
sales.
they put it as a sales tax.
Oh,
It's part of the sales tax?
You're right.
Yes, I'm sure Secretary Payne explained that.
On the case, they provide cable. the city it franchises the cable vision of some sort.
Yeah. Yep.
Then they're
Yeah,
going to get. Then they'll get our distribution unit will appropriate will according to the formula distribute it back out to them.
Okay.
Hey, Sharon,
Yes, sir.
be sure to update the board on the situation with the new city council placement in Robersonville and the opportunity that you see about Pikeville taking control of their assets.
Yes, sir. We'll discuss that as soon as we get a vote on these budgets. I do want to point out in Robertsonville, we do have a small transfer from the electric fund, $60,000. They are in the Eastern Power Agency, and they are allowed to transfer a small amount out in accordance with the statute. And
what percentage of the general fund is it going to the general fund? Is it going to the general?
It is going to the general fund. It's a very small amount.
What percentage is it of the general fund?
Gosh, that's so small.
0.038. So it's $60,173 out of a total estimated revenues of $1,589,985. So they would be within the
Assume it's staying within the restraints of 159B, 3%
Yes.
of
Yes.
5%
It's about 4%.
Yeah.
general fund.
And there are no transfers in Pikeville.
Ms. McCullough, this is Paul Butler.
Uh-huh.
Can you explain or expand on $350,000 in other revenue? What is other revenue?
Where is this for Robertsonville? Or who are you looking at? Which town?
Bill, we're on Robertsonville?
Section 2 of Robertsonville.
Yes, that 353, I see it. No, sir, I do not specifically know what is in that number, but I can find out for you.
Well, do they collect building permit fees and zoning permit fees and all that? I don't see them anywhere else.
And that's a bunch in a small budget.
It is. I will find out. I can find that out for you and let you know in an email. It is a significant part of their budget. Well, but we can look at this thing, Kendra. Oh, it is a rescue squad grant and EMS collections.
Rescue squad grants and what?
EMS.
Collections. EMS collections are 109,000 of that. I'm sorry. I'm looking at the wrong. The EMS collections are 105,000 of that. And then there are several different taxes in there, as well as EMS, Rescue Squad County grant of $108,900. So the two biggest numbers are EMS collections and Rescue Squad County money.
So they run an individual municipal rescue service and are not a part of the county rescue service?
They do, yes, sir. I don't think that Martin County doesn't have rescue. Do they? I don't think I don't think the county in this case has rescue, so the town has provided EMS itself.
What county is it in?
Martin.
Martin?
I see down there, the rescue appropriations are 278, which those two numbers are 213.9.
Yeah.
So
Okay. Thanks, Cindy.
Other questions? Is it your preference to vote on each one of these separately or to vote in one?
I'd rather prefer to vote on them separately.
All right. So the first one on the list is Cliffside Sanitary District. I hear a motion and a second for approval of that budget as presented.
With approval, Marshall.
Second, Burns.
Any further discussion on Cliffside? If not, Cindy, please call the roll.
Cliffside Sanitary District budget, Marshall Burns. Wood absent. And Secretary Penny.
Aye.
Thanks. Mr. Butler.
Aye.
Ms. Harvey.
Aye.
Councilwoman Hoffman.
Aye.
Mr. Philbeck.
Aye.
Treasurer Falwell. Okay. All right. With two absent, motion carries.
Thank you. Moving on to the town of Kingstown. Your motion and second to approve that budget as presented.
Move approval, Philbeck.
Marshall, second.
Thank you. Any further discussion for the town of Kingstown? Hearing none, Cindy, please call the roll.
Sharon, before they move on, I would like to confirm that the Robertsonville transfer that we just talked about is within the guidelines of 159B35. So anyway, we talked about it and I had staff calculate it. Sorry about that. That's okay.
Kingstown budget, motion Philbeck, second Marshall. With absent, Secretary Penny.
Aye.
Thank you. Mr. Burns.
Aye.
Thumbs up. Mr. Butler.
Aye.
Thank you. Ms. Harvey.
Aye.
Thank you. Councilwoman Hoffman.
Aye.
And any Treasurer Falwell? Okay, two absent, motion carries.
Thank you. All right, next up is the town of Spring Lake. So here a motion and a second for approval of that budget as presented.
Move approval, Penny.
Second, Hoffman.
Thank you. Any further discussion for the town of Spring Lake? Hearing none, Cindy, if you would call the roll.
Okay, Spring Lake budget, Penny Hoffman, Secretary Marshall.
Aye.
Thank you. Mr. Burns,
Aye.
Mr. Butler,
No.
Ms. Harvey.
Aye.
Thank you. Mr. Philbeck,
Aye.
Treasurer Falwell. Okay. And 6-1, motion carries.
Thank you. Next up is the town of Pikeville. Do I hear a motion and a second to approve that budget as presented?
I'll
Move
move.
approval, Penny.
Second, Hoffman.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Cindy, please call the roll.
The Pikeville budget, Penny Hoffman, Secretary Marshall.
Aye.
Thank you. Mr. Burns,
Aye.
Mr. Butler.
No.
Okay, Ms. Harvey,
Aye.
Mr. Philbeck.
Aye.
Thank you. And Treasurer Thompson. Okay, 6 yes, 1 no. That motion carries.
All right, last up is the town of Robertsonville. Do I have a motion and a second for approval of that budget?
Can I ask one question before we go into that?
Certainly.
And that is, are there any people in the town of Robertsonville that are covered by some other electric utility other than the electric city? Eastern.
I can't answer that.
Is it, I'm asking, is it like Smithfield where half the town is covered by some power company and half the town is covered by the electric city?
I wouldn't think so, but I've got staff on the phone.
Well, while you're asking, I got another question along the same lines. And are there any people outside of the city that are covered by that utility? People who don't have a member on the city council
Yes, sir.
or
Can you
paying the rate and can't go to the utilities commission.
I'm going to let Kendra Boyle speak. She's the Deputy Finance Officer for the town of Robertsonville. And she will be more likely to be able to address your questions.
Kendra, I'm
Kendra?
here. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
To your first question, Secretary Penny, I'm not aware of any other utility, electric utility that's in the town that's not the electricities.
All right.
Then as to were there those that are receiving utility services that don't have a seat on the council, the town of Parmalee and the town of Everett are covered under the utilities for Robertsonville.
So
That's just water sewer, Kendra, correct? Or is it electric too?
I believe it's electric too. Becky, do you know? She may not be unmuted, but I feel confident that it's electric too.
Okay, I'm unmuted. No, I do not know of that. I believe they're all in the same billing, but I'll ask that question. I'll send something to the town right now and I'll find out.
and that may not that may probably doesn't bother anybody else. So you can go on and vote and allow me to abstain.
But what, may I ask, this is Ms. Harvey, what's your concern, Secretary Penny? Is it with the
My
transfer
concern
of
is
funds
if
to the
I
general
have,
fund?
when we transferring money from the utilities to the general fund, in essence, people who aren't, who don't get a chance to vote on the council members are in essence paying taxes that they don't have any voice over at that point. And so I often have a concern when rates can go up and change and other things, and it doesn't make any difference to them. And it would make a difference if the city were regulated by the Utilities Commission, but it isn't. But theoretically, you vote on them. You don't need to be regulated if you get a vote on who's going to set your rates. But these people aren't protected by the Utilities Commission, and they aren't protected by their vote because they don't have a vote.
So the town of Palm gets its electricity from Dominion Energy, not from the town of Robertsonville. They do get their water sewer from Robertsonville, as does Everett's.
So none of these, so there are no outside customers.
Well, I don't know
if they charge an outside rate.
Oh, for what?
There's no people outside the city limits that are customers.
We don't believe so on the electricity now.
That's fine.
That's correct, Secretary Penny. This is Kendra Boyle. I just confirmed with the town that Parmalee and Everett do not get billed their electricity by Robertsonville.
Okay. So there may be, are there electric customers outside the limits, Kendra? Do you know?
Not to my knowledge.
If there are, they're probably not a significant number.
No, there would not be a significant number. Correct.
Okay.
I'm fine.
Thank you. All right. Do I have a motion and a second for the Robertsonville budget as presented?
Move approval, Burns.
Burns.
I'll second that.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, Cindy, please call the roll.
Okay, Robertsonville budget, that was Burns and Butler, motion second. Secretary Marshall?
Aye.
Thank you. Secretary Penny?
Can I abstain?
It's frowned upon as a strong word. We'd rather have you vote, but it's your prerogative.
If I've got to vote, I'll say aye, but I prefer not to.
All right, well, I will skip you for now. Abstain for, Burns, but Ms. Harvey?
Aye.
Thank you. Councilwoman Hoffman?
Aye.
Mr. Philbeck?
Aye.
And is the treasurer there? 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Well, I have some yeses. Oh,
Treasurer Falwell votes yes.
okay. Okay, the Robertsonville, 7 yeses, 1 abstain, 1 absent. Motion carries.
Thank you. We will be bringing a budget to you for the town of Eureka either in July or August. Their charter is suspended, and so they're not required to operate under 159, but we still like to get the commission's input on how we're going to spend their money for the next year. So we'll be bringing that in August for your consideration. A couple other quick updates. The first one, I'll start with the good, is with the town of Pikeville. We are quickly moving towards returning control of the town of Pikeville to the town and its elected officials. We don't have an exact date yet, but it will be sometime in July or August, probably August.
Probably August.
At the rate we're going. we're starting to iron out those details, and you know, the town has done a very good job of really doing a complete 180 in the way they were operating. Right now, we're waiting for the 21 audit to come in from their auditor. That's been a bit of a challenge initially at our end, but also at the auditor's end. So, but we're hoping to get that taken care of sometime this week, and then we can start to move forward on finalizing our plans to return control for Pikeville. Second issue I want to make you aware of is something that happened last week in Robertsonville. They've had a vacancy on their board since last November. Yeah, end of October.
October.
Yes, October. One of the elected officials passed away, and they just this past week have seated somebody in that seat. I can't say it's a new member because this person, I believe, used to be on the board there many years ago. The person they chose to put in that seat is the husband or ex-husband, nobody's quite sure which, of the former manager that we removed from the town after we took over. She is now employed with EnviroLink, who is managing the sewer for the town of Robertsonville, but she's not on that account. She does not work in Robertsonville. Mr. Jenkins, and it's Donald Jenkins is the new board member. Excuse me. David Jenkins has made his wishes about not looking at regionalizing their water sewer very well known, which is completely contrary to what we have tried to get the board thinking in terms of just being more open-minded. You know, we're in the middle of AIA and merger regionalization feasibility studies there. And it's concerning to us that we've got one board member now, at least, that is adamantly opposed to even looking at the results of the studies, much less considering them. You want to mention that?
Sharon, this is Paul Butler. Are we sitting as a town board just over the budget or over the whole operation of the municipality?
Anything that's related to finances, which is not everything, obviously. I mean, we have no say over who they seated on the board.
Let me ask you this, Sharon. If we had an incident where a law enforcement officer in one of these communities would conduct an action similar that we've seen across the country that's caused so much problems and heartbreak, who is going to be on the receiving end of the lawsuit, say? Is it us or is it people that are elected?
Anybody can sue anybody. So, you know, I don't know that it would stick against us because we didn't make the decision to hire or fire.
Nothing to do with
And we have nothing to do with training over public safety officers. My concern in Robertsonville, though, is, again, with Mr. Jenkins being back on the board, we asked to address the board at the meeting. We were initially first on the agenda. And as soon as they called the meeting to order, one of the other members asked to reorder the agenda so that the appointment of Mr. Jenkins was first and we were last. And I can speculate as to why that was, but I don't know for sure. We also are concerned that the manager has announced his resignation. He's going to another municipality. And so there's rumor, whether or not it's true, remains to be seen, about who they might hire as the new manager. And we've heard that one of their previous managers is interested. we have asked the board just to be cognizant of the fact that we are all still working to try to improve the financial condition of the town, and we need their support. Treasurer, do you have anything to add?
I do not, hang on a minute, Gary. I do not have anything to add. I just want to, congratulations on Pikeville. I'm very distressed about this news in Robersonville, and we appreciate all the work the staff's been trying to do, and the LGC needs to stay tuned.
All right, with that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second, Hoffman.
Second, Philbeck.
Sure. All right. Marshall,
Aye.
Penny,
Aye.
Burns,
Aye.
Butler. Whoops. See ya.
He's
I think
gone.
it's gone.
Ms. Harvey,
Aye.
Lou the Coop, and Treasurer, I'm sure would say aye. He's muted, I'm sure. Well, that motion, yeah, there he is. Mr. Butler, we're going to adjourn. Is that okay with you?
Fine.
Okay. Thank
Treasurer
you.
Falwell votes to adjourn.
Thank you. Quick reminder, our next meeting is July the 12th at 1:30. Thank you.
Bye all.
Thanks.